I have in studio with me, I think this is the first time we've had a proper one-on-one interview that's on the radio, and I think he deserves it. It's 22 minutes away from 8 o'clock on the morning wake up with Salah this morning. In studio with me this morning is Andrew Fraser, our chief executive here at Rima Media. Now, I asked Andrew about a month ago if he wouldn't mind coming on and having a chat with me. Because as you know, you've already heard the ads that we're on the lookout for a new chief executive. And because we're on the lookout for a new chief executive, our current one has to step down. We're going to find out why. Good morning, first of all, Andrew.
Morning, Salah.
I asked you about a month ago, would you mind coming on here? And I could tell you were reluctant to do that because I knew that you didn't want to sort of talk about yourself. True?
True.
Yeah. So I think before I start, I just want to honor your contribution to this organization. I'm still fairly new here in comparison to a lot of staff here, So I'm 3 years deep at the end of this year being here, but I just want to thank you for your service to Rima Media, because often it's the guys on the front line. I'm not just talking about Life FM, it's the announcers, it's at Rima, it's at Star, who we receive a lot of the attention or a lot of the thanks for the things that happen here, but that doesn't happen without somebody at the top. So, and that's you. So I just want to acknowledge that, Andrew, first of all, before we start. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Let's get it out of the way. So you're leaving Rima Media. Why?
Why? That's a good question. Bottom line is my season's done. In Ecclesiastes, we've just done the beautiful appeal, which is based in Ecclesiastes. There's a season for everything, and I think it's a wonderful thing, particularly here at Rima, how there have been so many people over the years since 1961 right through to now. From when the vision was first caught in 1961 to coming on here in 1978 to now, there have been literally hundreds of people, and we're all called to the ministry, but we're called for a time. And I liken it a bit like a relay race, where you take the baton from the person before you and you run your hardest until you're exhausted, and you pass that baton on to the next person who's fresh and ready to go, and then they run their hardest, and then you retire to the side and you get to watch what happens next. You're
fairly young in terms of your tenure here in comparison to a lot of other people here. That blew my mind when I joined the ministry, of how long people stay here for. It is a calling, and it is a workplace that, I'm talking about people who have been here for 30, 40 years. And you've been CEO, I think the end of this year would have been 8 years. Is that right?
Correct.
But you've been here at Rima for way longer than that.
22 years.
No consideration in those 22 years to hang up the boots?
Not after the first year.
Fair enough.
The first year was a tough year.
Yeah.
We moved the family from Hawke's Bay to Auckland to take up the role at Rima, and yeah, it was a hard move, and I didn't know if I'd actually make it through that first 12 months. But then I did, and then there was 2, and then there was 5, and then there was 10, and now there's 22.
And you had children now have grown up with Dad being here at Rima Media. How do they feel about Dad's moving on?
Well, my kids were 2, 5, 8 and 9 when we moved up. So particularly,
wow.
and now, 2 of them are in their 30s. I was in my 30s, now they're in their 30s. So it's kind of
wow.
this generational lifetime thing. So for them, it's kind of like, I've always worked at Rima. So it was like, oh, that's interesting, Dad. Well, good on you. What next?
Yeah, well, I want to get to that later on in this chat. But let's talk about the state of the media landscape at the moment. Well, we've heard over the last couple of months that TVNZ and MediaWorks have all taken a hit, yet Rima Media still operates on this side, and we seem to be okay. What's your perspective with the media landscape, and especially with how Christian radio fits in there?
The media landscape, it's an interesting one because, and over the last couple of decades, yes, I've been very close and seen it, and it's gone. The media is still incredibly powerful, It's the most powerful way to get a message out there, which is why we're here. The challenge has been for a number of years now is the increasing number of platforms that people use. And so you can't be in just one place or two places. You've got to be in like 10 places at once. And the real challenge within the media that you're seeing in the news is the commercialisation of it. How do you fund it? And the model, the funding model for TVNZ and MediaWorks and News Hub, etc., are the models that's really under failure. It fails. Whereas REMA's got a totally different funding model. Our funding model is the listener-funded station, where the people who listen and enjoy and benefit from it want to share the message that we've got with other people, and so 85% of our funding comes through donation. So that's fundamentally why we're still in a good position relative to everybody else.
Yeah, let's stay on that with the people for a second, because we get to hear firsthand the impact that Rema Media has on their lives. Being here as announcers, right? You must have some wonderful stories about the impact that it has that we don't get to hear.
A lot of the information comes through the station back to me. So and the group of people that I'm talking to, I get to hear those same stories as well, and some of them.
How does that make you feel?
Some of them just makes you want to cry.
Yeah.
In joy, not in desperation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, why are we here? Because it can be hard. To keep the place running, and then when you hear the difference that it's made in somebody's life, or you get the dramatic stories of the people who have come to the end of the line emotionally and are thinking of harming themselves, through to the person who's just lonely. They're stuck at home through illness or age, and their partner's died, or their family's moved away or something, and the fact that they can tune in and get comfort and encouragement through a radio station. It's just it's humbling actually to know that we've been part of that.
I think that's a really good word to use to describe it, humbling. It takes a certain individual to be a CEO, Andrew. You've obviously got your own particular leadership style there. What is it that the next person needs to have to manage this place?
I'm going to say, and this is not arrogant, but I'm going to say everything I've got and more. And I say that because, again, as I spoke before about, I believe it's my season, my time, and I'm passing the baton on. And I believe that God does that because he's going to bring in something new and fresh. And it's not that what has gone before has been wrong. It's more about the new person's going to stand on the shoulders of, just as I've stood on the shoulders of all of the staff, not just the CEOs that have gone before me. So what does the next person... so everything that we've got. It's a very wide role. It's from pastoral, looking after the staff and the listeners and viewers who write in, through to political and working with government and with the sector in those areas. But there's also a technology aspect to it to keep up with the technology and to utilise the resources that we've got well. So it's a stewardship issue. But fundamentally, what does the leader, as with all staff, but particularly the leaders, got to have that call. They've got to believe in what we're called to, because there'll be hard times, and there'll be times when you've just got to hunker down and believe that God's going to come through. And it's almost at times like it's on autopilot, and you've got to trust it.
Yeah, the
autopilot's God, not technology, and the temptation is to grab hold of the controls and try and wrestle it yourself.
Yeah,
if you do that, you're likely to not survive. So.
Yeah, I've seen you stand up at our staff meeting echoing those sentiments. So yeah, a couple more questions before we wrap up. I want you to sort of toot your own horn a little bit and just look back and reflect. What's something you're really proud of that you've achieved here?
I mean, there's so many things, and there's lots of smaller things. What I'm proud of, I'm proud of the team. I know that sounds a little cliche, but I am.
Who
really,
are you least proud of, Bjorn? Eh?
I don't have favourites.
You can tell me off. Sorry, carry on. I interrupted you.
No, I'm proud of the team and the way that the team has come together to support each other, to support the ministry. I mean, you know, we just come off a couple more on-air appeals with the other stations just in the last couple of weeks. And we don't have to coerce people to work extra hours, to do double shifts, or to man the phones. We say, here's the need, and people step into it. And that's because we're our family, and we all have the call. So look, there's, you know, we launched Shine TV during my tenure, well, my time with Rima, not my time as the leader. We did the 2030 vision. We've expanded. We've put about 60 new radio station transmitters on through that period of time. But they all add up to the one thing about getting the message of Christ out as far as it can go in the right place, in the right format, at the right time.
You mentioned the word there, the call. You know, you get the call up. What's the next call for Andrew Fraser?
Honestly, at the moment, I don't know. It's a pretty unusual step for me. I've had paid employment since I was 15. I was still at school, and you know, all of my school holidays I had paid employment, and I wouldn't think of letting go of a job, letting go of the rung, as it were, without having already a hand firmly on another one. But as I thought about it over the last few months and was looking at it and was looking, well, okay, God, what next? There wasn't anything. Then I've just got the sense you got to let go, and I'd be quite happy for a rest for a month or so.
You've earned that.
But then I need something else to go to. So it will be a full-purpose organisation, I'm sure of that. But exactly what it is, I don't know. Still praying about that, looking, and God will show in time.
I know I speak on behalf of everyone here at Rima Media. We wish you just Godspeed with that decision, and you've earned your break, Andrew. So thank you. Finally, before you go, before I cut you loose, for someone listening right now, we get often as presenters get a final word, and we are able to speak right into listeners' hearts. I might leave the final word for you. What would you like to say to somebody listening right now?
It's only listening right now. I'd say thank you for listening, because you know, without an audience, we're wasting our time. So you got to come in and listen. But I'd just say, look, listen to the music, to the messages. Enjoy what we're being part of the wider family. Get involved when the guys say ring and call. But just let the word soak into your heart through the music, through the interviews with the guests, and through the little small messages that we have, and encourage your friends and your neighbours to listen as well.
We're blessed because we've got a little bit more time with Andrew. He doesn't leave until the back end of June. So we'll get a lot more time to thank you and acknowledge your contribution to Rima Media, Andrew. But thank you for coming on this morning. I know you were reluctant to do that, but thanks, Andrew.
And no problem at all. It's lovely to be here. Thanks, Sarah.